Welcome to Valkyrie Women's Wrestling Confidential, the official podcast of Valkyrie Women's Professional Wrestling. I am Rob Blatt, joined by my good friend and broadcast colleague, Top Shelf Troy Nelson.
You changed it up this week. Usually it's broadcast colleague and then good friend. I see you thought you'd have better luck by doing the old switcheroo, Robert. Is that your game plan going into that?
I feel like each time we spend time together, Top Shelf, we get just a little bit closer. You know, just closer bonds between two fellow broadcastmen and a guy who just admires his good friend and the other guy who admires his good friend. You know?
I do not. But I digress. Robert, we made it. This is the fifth episode.
Top Shelf, what is the drink of choice tonight?
Well, I have to say, I had my fill of tequila yesterday. It was a couple fingers of Don Julio Reposado. I'm not much of a tequila drinker. So tonight, it's just a little bit of Knob Creek on the rocks. Just a little bit of whiskey.
Let's turn our attention to VALKYRIE VI for a moment.
What's the date on that, Rob?
Date on that, July 9th. Thursday night, a special Thursday night presentation of Valkyrie Women's Professional Wrestling at Woodbury Heights Community Center in, of course, beautiful Woodbury Heights, New Jersey.
Ugh. So many things were wrong about what you just said, mostly involving beautiful New Jersey. Nonetheless.
Big announcement, we have returning Kimber Lee.
What?
Absolutely. Top Shelf, you are not paying attention. And you will hear first Kimber Lee's opponent. However, we'll be doing that after the interview today.
Oh, that's how we reel them in.
Absolutely. And the interview.
But the addition that we have today, Rob, that isn't just the reel in. What an amazing podcast we have today on tap.
Getting ready, speaking to your good friend, another one of your good friends, aside from me, another one of your good friends, Ashley America, on the podcast today.
I've never met a more wonderful woman in this wrestling business. Ashley America is a doll. She's a doll, Robert, and she's got the credentials to back it up. She's not just a doll. She is a fierce in-ring competitor who I feel like is still yet to even come into her own. She's coming into her own as we speak, and I think that Valkyrie is going to be the platform at which she strives the most, which is all the more exciting for, well, not just you and I, but all the fans listening and watching her grow right in front of us.
And you being involved in Ashley America's debut at Valkyrie Women's Professional Wrestling as well. So there's a bit of a connection there.
So there is, in fact, a connection. We go into depths about her two first appearances here at Valkyrie. Ashley America will be with us again at our next Valkyrie event. Her opponent yet to be announced. Hopefully we'll be finding that out in the coming weeks. Get very excited for that. But we go into detail about that, her coming into the wrestling business. Truly a very interesting story for somebody. I think what makes this the best, this is her first real video, this is her first voice interview. This is the first time you'll get to have an intimate setting with Miss Ashley America. For those of you that are fans of her, you'll get to really listen to her story for the first time, really get to know her. And that's what I think the whole point of this podcast is in the first place, but I think it's going to be very enjoyable for everyone, especially you, Rob, because I was the one that got to conduct the interview. You get to shut up and listen for a change.
And then, as you were saying about Valkyrie Women's Wrestling Confidential, it's a look behind the person you see on the other side of the guardrail, a look behind the person from the promo pics. A good opportunity to dive deep. We've done that so far already, but Ashley America coming up just in a moment. One of the to give a little bit away, but one of the two wrestlers we've spoken to already who started out in a barn.
And with that said, if odds are, I'm not speaking for everyone, but odds are if your wrestling training starts in a barn, please be careful.
So without further ado, here is Top Shelf Troy Nelson's interview with Ashley America.
Valkyrie Women's Wrestling Podcast. Ashley's already giggling with glee over there, and if you didn't already know, episode 5, my guest, Top Shelf Troy's guest, is the one and only, my good friend and yours, Ashley America. Ashley.
Cinco, cinco, cinco.
The hell does that mean?
It means 5 in Spanish.
Why'd you say it 3 times?
Because I'm a really big Tim and Eric fan.
Tim and Eric, they're the Tim and Eric awesome show. Great job. Great job. So, yes. Ash, you're episode 5 here. Very excited to have you. My first question for you is, I just like to know the background. What's it like being you? Where are you from, dear? Where are you from originally?
I am from the same place that I still live, which is York, Pennsylvania.
York, Pennsylvania. Now, when you say York, are we talking Philly, Allentown, Hazleton? Like, where is that?
York is about 45 minutes north of Baltimore and about 45 minutes south of Harrisburg. So it's south central Pennsylvania. People are like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, York. And they're like, oh, what part of New York? And I'm like, no, York. And they're like, New York City? And I'm like, no, just plain York. Little York. Old York.
They stare at you blankly and angry because they're confused.
Yeah.
So York, Pennsylvania for life. Growing up in York, Pennsylvania. Childhood, Ashley, what's it like? What was it like growing up in York, Pennsylvania? What was a childhood like for Ashley America? What did you do?
Pennsylvania is actually a really good place to grow up. It was me and my mom and my dad and my younger brother, who's about 2.5 years younger than me. And honestly, I spent most of my time playing outside. I was the kid who always needed to be hosed off before I could come in the house because I was covered in mud because we had a creek in our backyard. And my neighbor and I... even though I feel like we had dolls, we chose to, like, pretend that logs were our baby dolls and sticks for our husbands, and we'd, like, make houses with, like, rock wall borders and stuff back there, and it was pretty awesome.
The imagination of a child, I find it funny that the sticks were the husbands, logs were the babies, not the other way around.
Well, the logs were short and fat. I mean, the logs kind of were more baby-shaped. The husbands were just, like, tall and really skinny. But...
Oh, so I was thinking, like, just twig. Like, you meant sticks.
Oh, yeah, like, tall branch. I should have said branches. Sorry.
Branches. Sticks. I was picturing tiny sticks. Would you call it maybe a tomboy, maybe? Just maybe a tomboy.
Maybe. A hair tomboy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like me some My Little Pony, but yeah.
That's popular nowadays, right?
You know, I watched the Bernie documentary, and it actually made me like them.
I heard that it's just people. It's like dudes that are really into My Little Pony. I feel like maybe they weren't hugged enough as children, and now they are adults that enjoy ponies, I guess. So as much as you were a tomboy, there were dolls around. The big question that I always ask, and the reason I asked this question for people, was wrestling there in your childhood, or did it not come along till later in life?
It didn't come along until high school.
High school?
Yeah, because my parents were always very strict about what TV we were allowed to watch and things like that, and I just remember, like, my mama was always, like, against it from the beginning. Like, she never liked it before I was even into it. And just, like, anything violent, I don't know. I feel like they tried to, like, keep me from my tomboy ways. Another example, if you don't mind, a slight tangent. So I always loved watching, like, This Old House and New Yankee Workshop with my dad. And I wanted so bad to, like, build things out of wood when I was a kid. And they're like, no, you're a girl. You can't do that. You'll get hurt. And things like that. And, like, I wanted to watch Power Rangers, and they told me that that was for boys, and, like, Batman and stuff. And now look at what I do. I do set lighting on TV, and I build stages for a living, and I have tools in my trunk all the time. So it's just funny that...
Sticking it to the man.
In spite of all that,
Of
this is where I am.
course. So wrestling came along in high school.
Just kidding.
Goodness. Whereabouts in high school did wrestling come along? Where did you see it? How did it just happen? Friends? What was the first memory?
My friends, actually, I was in the marching band. Like, number one band nerd in the entire world.
The plot thickens on the story of Ashley America. Keep going, please.
Yes. I was in the marching band, and my best friend's boyfriend was the drumline captain. And the drumline was always like the really cool guys that we always had crushes on and stuff. And they started making a backyard wrestling promotion, which they called at first Ultimate Drumline Wrestling. And then it turned into this big thing with like a bunch of people wanting to be in it who weren't in drumline or like band or anything. Just like people started seeing what they were doing. I think this was even like pre-YouTube, but other people wanted to be in it. And so we turned it into Ultimate Dallastown Wrestling, which was the name of our school. And at first I would go and just like watch them. And I thought it was cool because like they all knew that they couldn't wrestle. It was all about like the characters and like the storylines and stuff. And they would make like fake commercials and like vignettes and stuff, and it was really entertaining. I thought, actually, I was invited over to a friend's house to watch SmackDown because they would all watch SmackDown together, and I was like, this is gonna be stupid, whatever. And I went over, and my first memory of watching WWE was the feud between the Spirit Squad and DX, and I just
great
the Spirit Squad, holy crap.
Was so great.
So within like 2
I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it when they shipped them. Oh, I mean, I was sad that they were gone, but I loved it when they shipped them away in the box.
Back to Ohio.
Yeah.
Back to Ohio Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I was like more obsessed with wrestling than any of the people who were like originally watching it within like 2 or 3 times of watching, and then I wouldn't miss
I can only imagine just your friends are just watching this because it's their regular routine. You immediately just are like enthralled by this new world and everything's new.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this? It's a combination of all these like ridiculous things, and there's so much stuff that goes into it because like I always knew that it wasn't like real, you know? So I was just amazed at like everything that went into it and all like possibilities that it could be.
It's just, I always find that as an interesting story of how a woman, not to say that they couldn't do anything that a man could do, but just how they can just come in like, that's the next logical step for me is I am going to do that. I think it's crazy for anyone to say, oh, I'm going to do that. And yet here we are having this podcast talking about your professional wrestling career. The rest was history. The rest was history. When, like, so you've been a fan for a few years now after that. When did the step come where it was, I need to give this a try? I need to do this. When did it hit you, Ashley?
I went to school to be an art teacher, but I kind of knew that that wasn't really what I had a passion for. It was just something I felt like I could do to make me money, but like I was always trying to think of ways to be involved in wrestling. I was like, maybe I could be like a graphic designer, and I actually took some courses and realized that I really, really do hate computers. And I'm so old school. Like, I like to draw and paint, and it just irritates me if I know how I could just like do something with my hands that I can't just reach into the screen and do it. I used to not be able to tell this without crying, but people have made me tell them so many times that I don't really cry too much anymore. But after college, I graduated in 2010, which is right when the economy took a giant nosedive. Mm-hmm. And I'm like super goal-oriented. And also then my boyfriend at the time was a year younger than me, and he was like my first love or whatever. And so he ended up, you know, breaking my heart for the first time.
Oh,
Aww.
It doesn't matter when it comes. It's the worst.
It is. Like the first time.
your first. It's gotta be your one and only, and then they just
poop all
everyone
over it.
feels that way. It's not just you.
Yeah. And I'm a sensitive person too, like I know that. So I didn't have anything to work for. I couldn't find a job, and I just started getting like really depressed, and like instead of admitting that I was hurt, I started serial dating to, I think, subconsciously fill that void, because I was just like, oh, I want that there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I just dated like gradually worse and worse and worse, and the most terrible guys ever. And I was just like beat down, didn't know who I was. Like the last guy that I dated just made me feel like a giant piece of dog doo-doo. And I had no idea what I was doing with my life. And so I got into doing stage work, and I was never athletic before. And I don't know if anybody's ever like seen a stage being built, but there's a lot of big heavy things, and usually it's like big burly dudes who are doing it. And so I had to keep up with all those guys, and like for me the work was hard, but I really wanted to do it because I saw it as a good opportunity for myself. Mm-hmm. And so I pushed really hard to keep up with them, and I got in really good shape because of course a lot of them feel that women shouldn't be in that industry as well.
Yeah.
So fighting another uphill battle. But I got in shape doing that, but I was still like just like a shell, you know what I mean?
Of course.
And so some friends were like, oh, you should do roller derby. And I was like, no. If I'm going to do anything like that, it's going to be wrestling. And so, like, without even really, like, thinking about it or ever, like, realizing how far I was going to take it and what I would end up doing just to learn how to be a wrestler, I signed up at the wrestling school that was close to my house, which was, like, the worst possible school I could have gone to. But, yeah, that's...
One close to your eye. Now, is this place of... And you'll know if it is. Is it, if you don't want to name names, you don't have to. If you'd like to, by all means. Is it a place of note, at least? Or is it just Johnny Wrestling's House of Wrestling, where some guy who knows a guy was trained by the nephew of a guy? Was it like that type of place, or was it an actually noteworthy school?
Not noteworthy at all. The owner of the school was trained as an ECW jobber way back in the day, and the school was in a barn, and I signed up in the dead of winter, and it had a lot of bats in it, which left a lot of bat doo-doo on the ring.
Doo-doo!
It's not a wrestling ring. I'm trying to keep PG for the kids. But
you can say whatever you want. We throw the explicit tag, I think, on regardless, for when I get rather randy in the beginning of the intro. So, at the risk that I do that. So, if you speak your mind, hon, this is what this is all about. You do you. Do you, Ashley.
Okay, boo.
So, you're in this ring in a barn with...
and I'm pretty sure it was also
a wrestler from ECW, or was trained by an ECW, was trained by probably, I don't know, one of the ECW brawlers from 1994.
They threw him in battle royales, pretty much, but he made it sound like it was more than that, you know?
That's even a lie, because ECW had 2 battle royals ever.
Oh, it's Eastern Championship Wrestling, like before it was Extreme.
Ugh.
But, yeah.
Indie wrestling in 94. Discuss. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyways, but, so you're in this ring, and you're
He's like... He basically made me take a crap ton of back bumps. And I had never learned how to be a wrestler before, so I didn't know what he was doing. But I didn't realize it until, well, first a guy who was about my age came in to train, and he didn't make him do that. And then, the worst of all, this little boy who's 14 years old, who weighed probably like 85 to 90 pounds, comes in, and I don't think legally you're even allowed to train until you're 16 in Pennsylvania. And he comes in and he wants to be a wrestler, and the guy made him take all these bumps that one day. And the other like guy in the school is like, "Oh, you bumped him out." And that's, first of all, when I realized that they were beating me up because they thought that I was weak because I'm a woman. And second of all, the fact that they did that to that little boy really made me mad, because like they probably like crushed that little boy's one dream.
Yeah.
At the age of 14, which is really fucked up.
Some kids might know better, some kids might not. He didn't.
Yeah.
Carny bullshit like that still exists.
Major carny.
Oh.
I managed to like meander my way into carny situation after carny situation, but
so yeah. How long do you stay at this wrestling school?
I think I was there for about 4 months. Mm-hmm. And after a few months, the owner of the school had stopped showing up and had left the key with me and the one other student. So we would go in and train by ourselves.
Which, is training with no teacher there 4 months in. No one there to guide. Ugh.
I mean, the guidance was probably worse than anything, because then I had to go unlearn all of the incorrect things that I was taught there, or not taught, because no one could explain anything to me. And then, of course, I was blamed when I didn't understand their lack of explanation. Sorry, guys, I'm a teacher, and I understand, like, that you have to break things down into steps for people to be able to learn it. You can't just be like, "Oh, here's a math problem.
Figure it out."
Yep.
I'll be back.
I'm not getting paid to explain this to you.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So at what point do you say, all right, this is obviously going nowhere?
Well, they gave me, this is my very first wrestling match. They let the boy on the show like right away and acted like I was terrible, and also told me that wrestling probably just wasn't for me. But they let me on the show after I was like, this isn't fair. I'm not getting the same opportunities as this guy, and it's clearly because I'm a girl. And, like, yeah, there's not any other ones around, but how am I supposed to get experience? I'm paying to learn how to be a wrestler, you know? Mm-hmm. And so they let me on the show, and they bring in this girl, and she was just, like, super rude the entire time as soon as she gets there. I'm, like, just trying to be nice to her. And then I'm like, "So what do you want to do?" And she's like, "We'll just call it the ring." And I had come up with a few things to, like, have her do to me, just so, like, because I was like, well, I'm new, so I should make her look good. So I came up with a few things, and of course she was like, "Okay, cool, we can do that." And so we did it, and during the match she ended up toe punting me in the vagina, and forearming me in the face, like super, super hard, and she bruised her own arm, but not my face. And then she posted about, like, welcoming me to the business on her Facebook.
So that was your welcome to the business, your first match.
Yep.
Terrible first experience.
Yeah, so after that, that's when... And then I was told that I didn't have what it takes to be a wrestler ever. And I got really upset, because I was like, I know, I'm a teacher. I know, like, if you want to do something, it might take you a lot longer than somebody else, but you can learn how to do whatever you want to do. So that really made me upset. And it was after that I found out that there was another school opening up kind of nearby. So that's when I said sayonara.
You said sayonara to York Barn Championship Wrestling.
York Barn Championship Wrestling.
The YBCW.
Yep.
I made that up. And you go on to another school. And I do believe that this school that you moved on to, a lot more credible than a barn, I do believe.
Yes. It was in a building next to a train station.
Yes.
Which, ironically, I think every school except for 2 or 3 that I've been to after that have been right next to train stations.
Yeah. So just so they can write on the website, conveniently located next to the train.
Choo choo.
Oh, I can take the train. I can become a wrestler. Of course. Of course.
Train to train.
So you had to... Now, was this the Monster Factory at this point, yes?
No, the Monster Factory's not for a while.
Did you go to another wrestling school?
Oh, there's a lot of wrestling schools.
See, I didn't know there was schools in between the Monster Factory and Barn Championship Wrestling. Are those schools even? That's what I was referring to. I was what other schools were there? Any things of note worth mentioning, or?
I don't know. The first trainer who I really started to learn a lot from was Eddie Valentine, who was part of CZW back in the day. It
was him. Here's my knowledge. It was Fast Eddie Valentine and John Dahmer. They were VD was their team name. I do remember Eddie Valentine.
Yeah.
Chris Levin is going to be so excited when he hears that there was an Eddie Valentine mentioned on this podcast.
Is he a fan?
We're a fan of early East Coast indie wrestling in the 2000s.
That's so random.
Are you shocked that I know who Eddie Valentine is?
A little. I mean, I knew that he was a decent enough deal, but
Fast Eddie Valentine, VD, him and John Dahmer. A very
to tell him that he'll get a kick out of that.
That he had a fan, an 11-year-old fan from Haverhill, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Of course, Eddie. So you still stay in contact with Eddie Valentine then, I assume.
I do. I hang out with him and his husband sometimes. I haven't in a while, but yeah. I mean,
that's interesting.
I think he taught me as well as he could have, and he really helped me a lot with taking big bumps and big beels out of the corner and stuff like that, which I think is a skill that a lot of wrestlers on the indies don't have. So if you have it, then you're a commodity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and just toughening me up too, because Ashley America is not a fighter in real life.
I think America is a delicate flower. She's a delicate. She's very passive in real life, and she is absolutely terrified of conflict, which is ironic also. But my life is mostly based off of irony, I come to find. So yeah. A life based off of irony, the Ashley America story.
Yeah. So Eddie Valentine and his husband was also a big source of inspiration for me, because he had all these medical problems and stuff. And he had this terrible botched intestine surgery, which should have just been a little thing. And the doctor mangled his intestine and left foreign objects inside of him, and he almost died. And then it just kept getting worse. And then he had surgery to correct that. So because he had a machine hooked up to his lower intestine, and he had a surgery correct that, and then he almost died and ended up with blood clots in his legs, and so his leg and hand mobility are very limited now. But he was always the one encouraging me and being I think she's awesome and I think she can do it. So it was just really cool to finally have someone be positive and tell me that I could do it, and especially someone who had been through so much himself.
Of course. I think that's so interesting. And they say Eddie's husband wasn't a worker or anything, no, right?
No, he actually hates wrestling, but he took he came in and he took the time to watch me and help me, and oh my gosh, it took me so long to get flip bumps. I had what they called my mermaid tail, but he would watch me and tell me what I needed to do, and it was just awesome of him. So I'll never forget that.
That's really great. That's so interesting. Eddie Valentine, of all people. Wow. So these schools in between, and then eventually you find yourself at the Monster Factory. You do eventually find yourself at the world famous Monster Factory.
Yes.
About how you got there. I want to know how you. Sorry, I want to know how you got there, and I want to know about your time at the Monster Factory. When did you find the Monster Factory?
All right. So for a while, I was going up to Connecticut to train with Joseph von Schmidt.
Ugh. Ugh.
I know a lot of people don't like him, but he's never. I mean, he was nicer to me than most people were. He really was.
Oh man!
Like, did anything creepy? I know.
Like that's the new thing for women. It's like, well, at least he wasn't creepy.
That's pretty much where my standards are.
Women's trainers these days. Oh, Von Schmidt. I've never met him. I have never met him. I have never also. You're the first person that's like, oh no, he's really nice. So I can't say anything. Maybe I've never met him.
That's the exact reaction that I get anytime I bring up his name.
That's why I'm curious. I mean, I don't know. He's probably a great guy. I have been a part of wrestling now for just about 2.5 years. I've been wise to wrestling for a while. I've never seen anything good about him. So you're in Connecticut at Joseph Von Schmidt's. PWA, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I really liked it up there. I had a good time. Like, he did a lot of training in Mexico, so he taught us a lot of lucha stuff, which is what I am interested in doing and learning. And so that was really cool for me. Like, he helped me a lot with my roles and just different, like, putting spots together. So, like, that part was cool. I knew it wasn't, like, a complete and total wrestling education, but I did a seminar with Stevie Richards, and I knew he was from the Philly area, so I was like, hey, do you know of anywhere closer in Pennsylvania that I could train? Because it was a 5.5-hour drive for me to go up there. And he was like, oh, the Monster Factory. So I was like, okay, I'll check it out.
And that you did?
Yes, I did.
And you spent quite, what would you say at that point in your career, and we're talking about how long ago, probably? A year or two ago?
Yeah, I guess it was about a year and a half or 2 years.
Year and a half to 2 years. So this is where you get your real polishing, correct?
Yes.
Who are the people that are helping make Ashley America the real solid worker that I know her to be right now? Who are the people there at the Monster Factory? And I know of the bigger names. I know of the Blue Meanie. I know Danny Cage. I know Wild Bill Wiles is over there. Are any of these names, who are these, of those guys, are there any of those people that are really helping you out there?
I mean, they all had their own role in helping me out. They would kind of joke like, Blue Meanie is the Paula Abdul, and then Danny is the Simon, and Bill Wiles is like the goofy uncle. So, yeah. Oh, man. If you want to hear some stories, talk to Bill Wiles, because that guy has got some hilarious stories.
I was going to say, Bill Wiles, he's a Monster Factory graduate himself, correct?
He is. And he also trained, I'll think of it later. But anyway, he trained her. Oh, yeah. But Bill and I definitely have had some entire conversations with just, like, fart noises. And he also really loves musicals. That's
his means of communication, Wild Bill Wiles and fart noises.
And mine too, sometimes.
That's how you use your secret language.
Fart noises. Yep. He does a great, like, high-pitched trumpet fart noise with his mouth.
Can you give us an example, please?
I can't do it. It's like...
Try it. You've already come this far. Try it, please.
Except he does it a lot better.
Oh, I'm with you. Like a... Kind of like a balloon releasing air.
Yeah.
I love... This is my new favorite podcast. This is my new... The Fart, A Portrait of Human Greatness. Discuss. Oh, man. So Bill Wiles, obviously a fave of yours. The Blue Meanie, helpful. Yeah. Blue Meanie's been everywhere. He's run his own promotion. He made it to the ECW mainstay. You want to talk about character work. The Blue Meanie knew his character. And especially, I think one of my favorite points in Blue Meanie's career is when he became the Blue Boy. Brian, he lost so much weight. He lost a full person and was belittling everyone that was like overweight and obese when he once was so heavy. I thought it was so brilliant is to just pick up on that. And that's 14 years ago now, which is crazy to think about. 15 years ago now. It's crazy. And Brian Cage, Danny Cage, the head trainer now of the Monster Factory. He owns the Monster Factory, correct?
Yes, Larry Sharp is in retirement in Florida.
Yes. Like most wrestlers, they've retired to Florida if they weren't already wrestling in Florida.
Yes.
And Danny Cage, helpful? Yes? No?
He was...
He can be helpful at times?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had his own way of helping. You know, he was sort of like the tough coach, or he liked to play the role of like the strict dad who was never like satisfied with anything that you did ever. Like, felt like if he gave you a compliment or too many compliments, then he wasn't pushing you hard enough. So he was always trying to push for more in his own way.
Yeah, and I feel like that could even be, I feel like that at some point, I mean, everyone's different. Everybody learns in a different way. Getting feedback, getting praise, I guess, at the same time is something like that. I feel like when I was training, I got too much praise. I feel like, I could have used, a little more, I don't know.
Yeah.
A little bit more tough love. So I don't see that as being necessarily a bad thing. Probably,
I mean, for me, it's a mixture. I do need constructive criticism. Like, I know I'm an artist, so I know whatever you are doing, you can always get better at. So I'm always looking for constructive criticism. But you also need to know what you are doing well so that you can be confident in what you're doing.
Mm. Absolutely.
Yes.
Any stablemates, any fellow trainees at the Monster Factory that you found as helpful in blossoming as a professional wrestler?
Yeah.
I saw your good buddies with Matthew Riddle.
I love Riddle.
UFC middleweight Matthew Riddle has made the switch over to pro wrestling. You were there. You're at the tail end of the Monster Factory when he was coming in. You trained with him for a few months, yes?
Yeah.
What's he like?
Oh my god, he's like the nicest person in the world, and he's hilarious. And he picked up wrestling really fast, too, so...
Yeah.
I'm sure great things are coming his way, and he deserves them. That's and good. I want to see him do awesome.
I do. I think it's crazy to be able to make the train. It's an interesting... everyone's talking about wrestling to MMA now. I think it's really interesting when MMA comes to wrestling, with Ronda Rousey just appearing at WrestleMania. That's one thing. I think it's more exciting when I see people like, you're familiar with the Shayna Baszlers of the world who goes to PWG events. When I see someone like, there's a guy, Chuck O'Neal, who was on The Ultimate Fighter a few seasons ago. He's training with Biff Busick now in Massachusetts, and he's really... he's still fighting in MMA, but he's doing pro wrestling. He's, on the side, I should say, but he's really giving it 100%. So I think it's really cool. I've seen Matt Riddle fight. I went to a fight of his in New Jersey a few years ago. He fought a guy named Greg Soto, of New Jersey native, and it was really interesting to see that fight. So, yeah, it's really cool to know that Matt's a really nice guy under all that legitimate toughness that he has,
Yeah, and he's got a buttload of personality, too, so he's perfect for the wrestling business, in my humble opinion, but...
Absolutely.
Yes.
So who else would because he came in fresh, who are the other trainees that would you say helped shape you, if you wanted to give them a shout-out, and why? What is it that they did to help you out? What do they do?
I would love to. Honestly, it was really, a brotherhood type situation there. So I would say, all of the guys tried to help me to the best of their ability. The one that would probably be most known is the Punisher, Luis Martinez.
Yep.
Yeah. He's a great guy. Mike Spanos was always there. He helped me a lot with, my workouts and stuff. And just super positive, awesome guy. LSG, Leon St. Giovanni.
St. Giovanni. Oh, I love him. He's great.
Yeah, he is great. Tim Hughes.
Good News Hughes, yeah.
Yeah, Good News Hughes.
So, like I said, it's a real brotherhood. You were their sister. They took care of you, everyone.
Yeah, and like no one was ever creepy or tried to hit on me or anything. So it was cool.
Playing the wrestling business. This is a PSA for any other wrestler. If you're a fan, God, don't be creepy. It's so easy to not be creepy.
It really is.
Maybe they just don't realize it. All you have to do is not do it.
I don't know why, like, guys assume when you sign up to be a wrestler as a woman that you are also, like, looking to be sexually harassed every day.
That isn't on the sign-up sheet. It's not there.
Yes.
You didn't accidentally check off a box that said, I'm fair game. I don't think that's how it works, nor will it ever.
Yes.
So now, you know, the Monster Factory, you're doing what you're doing. You're getting more bookings. They're no longer sporadic. You're getting more bookings. But a change is made again. A change is made again. Always evolving, like you said, like an artist. Always evolving, always trying to get better, learning from different sources, looking outside the box and trying to get into different places. You are now training at the Ring of Honor Dojo. That is correct.
Yes.
You're training under, Hunter. You're training under Delirious.
Yes, under Delirious. I did well, first of all, I don't know if you know QT Marshall. I forgot to give him a shout out.
I do know QT Marshall, yeah.
He's a Monster Factory alum, and he came back and started being our trainer. And he was super awesome. He brought in a strength and conditioning coach named Stefan, who was amazing. And QT really like started to broaden my horizons a lot too. And I ended up doing the Ring of Honor tryout camp, which like I knew I wasn't ready for an actual tryout. I did it more as a seminar, but I just learned so much in those 2 days. And Delirious said that I could come out there and train, and I was like, absolutely. I just felt good there, and it felt like the next step for me. So I just do what feels good, and that's where I wound up.
Absolutely. Now you've been there now, I do believe, 3 or 4 months we're talking now, maybe? What month? We're in April, like 4 or 5 months more like?
Yeah, 4 or 5. Time goes by fast.
And now I think of everyone that's over there that I know. I finally met him for the first time. We were at a diner 2 weeks back. Was Will Ferrara.
Big Willie!
Will Ferrara. I came in, I commentate for Warriors of Wrestling out of Staten Island. I debuted commentating there in July of 2013. His last match with the group was in June of 2013, so I missed Will by a month. That was when he started literally he dedicated all of his time to Ring of Honor. And you want to talk about a kid that worked his balls off, just making these trips to all these cities, like doing what he can, pounding pavement, you know, really just like paying dues. Like the right way was Will Ferrara, and look where he is now. He's got his spot on the main roster that he earned, that he really and truly did earn. Having great matches. I got to see his match against Donovan Dijak, who I know from here in New England, and
Dijak's awesome too. I love him and Mikey Webb. Mikey
Webb of New England, of course. So many people going through these Ring of Honor tryouts, and I mean, you think of someone like a Will Ferrara, who it's not a big guy, about 5'10", but just works his behind off. I think it's amazing. Who else you got at the Ring of Honor school that's very helpful towards you, other than just Delirious over there? Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly is around.
He's not at the school, but I had done a promo seminar with him at the Monster Factory, and he comes to the camps, and he made his email available to anybody who wants to send him whatever. So yeah, that's cool. And at the school, of course, we have Cheeseburger, of
course.
Yes. We got Rhett Titus will come in every now and then.
Yeah.
I still see QT and Punisher, and LSG comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Who else do we have? There's a bunch of new students now. 3 other new girls since I started there, so that's nice to have.
That's got to be good too. I mean, especially if there's 3 girls in the Ring of Honor, dojo, they're serious about it, just as serious as you. At least you'd think. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are, but if you're going to be going to the Ring of Honor dojo, that means you probably know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I never would have had the balls to just go straight to Ring of Honor. So like, I had to take the path that I took to get there, just because like I always thought it was amazing, and I never would have been like, oh, I think I'll be able to do that someday. But
very interesting.
I mean, not that I can do that now.
I'm going to just.
I'm gonna keep trying until I can. Where I'm too old and broken.
Oh my. So now you've got so much, you've been under the tutelage of so many people, and I think it's great. You've learned from so many different people, and that's where we bring us now. Valkyrie Women's Wrestling. There's a lot of places right now where an all-women's promotion is happening, but the premier place here on the East Coast, I'm talking New England, I'm talking about the Pennsylvania, New Yorks, the Jerseys, Valkyrie Women's is this new outlet for the young guns, for lack of a better term, in women's professional wrestling. That's you, Ashley.
That's me.
That's you. You have competed on 2 Valkyrie shows. Count them, 2 Valkyrie shows. Let's talk about those 2 matches a little bit, because if you're listening to this podcast, I'd hope that if you're interested in Ashley America, I hope that you've seen these 2 shows. If not, you can go to the website. We'll plug that afterwards. You can go watch these matches. It was the first night I met you. That would be January of this year, 2015. It was you versus Nyla the Destroyer. Talk to me about your match with Nyla.
It was a quickie.
I tried to help you.
You did.
I tried the best. I mean, once you throw alcohol in someone's eyes, which was perfectly legal because it was before the bell.
Yes.
It was before the bell. I would never think of interfering in a match. Not once in my life. So it was perfectly legal, and just Nyla, I mean, I don't have so many good things to say about her. I wish her grim, and at our next show in July, I have tricks up my sleeve. But you and Nyla, you mixed it up. It was your very first match in Valkyrie. A big opportunity for you. It wasn't meant to be that night. Was it not?
No. It was a very, very short. I mean, if anything, I would argue that the size discrepancy is just totally unfair. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do?
Exactly. I think that she should have had to have made weight for that bout. Should have been a catch weight bout. She should have come down to where you're at. Absolutely.
Exactly. Come down to my level, Nyla.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Come down to go up to your level, Ashley. I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And before that match, now you were preaching some sort of politics. I do believe. Ashley, the politics, just a thought process. Tell me a little bit about Ashley America there. Tell me about that thought process. I'm not even talking about the wrestling process here. You said a lot of things. Before your match. What's your agenda, Ashley? Before we get to your next match, what is your agenda there?
I mean, what isn't the agenda about? We are trying to move forward in this backward moving country, and I'm just trying to make people aware of values and tradition and the things that they've lost over the years. That's all.
Absolutely. How grateful these people should be about an all-women's wrestling show. I mean, they'd maybe just taking it for granted when there are men out there that are looking for work, looking to wrestle. I mean, you're very grateful, Ashley. Is what you know. You're truly grateful, and you show respect to the people that I do believe deserve the respect. You know.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Exactly. That's great. That is the Ashley America agenda. Give them respect where it's due, people. Please. They don't get it. Some of them don't get it, Ash. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying, and we're going to reach out to those people, and we might have to talk really, really slowly for them to understand, but one day, they're going to get it.
Ugh. I'm impatient. I don't want to wait for them. Regardless, we were in Staten Island for our last Valkyrie. We were at Valkyrie V, Staten Island, New York. It was you versus Little Jeanne. Little Jeanne of WCW fame. First match back in a while for Jeanne. A consummate vet. She was trained by Johnny Rods up here, up in New York. I'm in Boston right now. In New York. Undoubtedly, probably the most seasoned vet that you've ever wrestled, Ashley.
Absolutely.
And fortunately, you got a chance to wrestle. Unlike Nyla, who kind of she blindsided you, amongst other things. Go watch the DVD, you'll see. Go watch the video on demand. But Little Jeanne, you mixed it up with a while for Little Jeanne. What did it mean to you to be able to mix it up with someone who? To think was on WCW Worldwide, WCW Saturday Night, someone that, got their like real TV, start way back in the day. What did it mean to you to be able to wrestle her?
It was a really special experience. Yeah, it was really cool. Maybe once in a lifetime? I don't know. I mean, my favorite female wrestler is Sherry Martel, and obviously that could never happen, sadly. But
unfortunately, not. No.
Yeah.
But I was saying, you have to look at it. I
wrestled someone who wrestled Sherry, so that's cool.
Exactly. Little Jeanne wrestled Sherry.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's kind of like the 6 points of separation. It's like that.
Yeah.
I wrestled Little Jeanne, who wrestled Sherry Martel, and then you can just even trace it back from there because then Sherry wrestled Mae Young, and Fabulous Moolah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Sherry's wrestled Mae Young. I would have to go back and look, but I know Sherry Martel and Fabulous Moolah wrestled, and it's crazy to know that you just have four points there to Moolah and only 3 to Sherry Martel, which I think is incredible.
Yeah.
That is truly something special, I think, and that's what's so interesting about wrestling. Who you're going to meet, and all the more reason why I think it's interesting of who you're going to learn from, who taught your trainer, who was trained by that person, who's hooked up with this person in the business, and this and that, and that's what I think where the wealth of knowledge has come, and I think that's what makes someone a better wrestler. I mean, you did not get the W against Little Jeanne, but do you feel like it was a learning experience? Did you come out a better wrestler after that match, Ashley?
Yeah, and it was cool to work in her style, especially after all of my old school training at the Monster Factory, just to go back to that 1980s, no high spots, just wrestling. Yeah, just wrestling.
Real good match. I'll tell you, there was a mat work presence. I saw you tried to embarrass her with the figure 4 leg lock pin. That didn't happen.
No, she got to me before I got locked in.
I tried. It was not meant to be.
She got to me before I even got it locked in, so I think she overheard me. Maybe I should be a little quieter in the back, but,
The consummate vet. Always. But and like we said, that's what you're going to learn, and that's what's going to make all the difference this July at Valkyrie VI. We're back in New Jersey. Yet to have your opponent announced yet. Not quite yet. Hopefully we'll find out in the coming weeks. I'll be rooting you on. I think that's going to be good. I was going to mix up the questions now, but one of my questions on my list that I like to ask is, what is your dream match mixed up with who are your idols in wrestling? So Sherry Martel comes to mind for you.
Sherry. Oh.
What is it about Sherry Martel that just captivated you, especially from a fan who had to go back and watch her stuff?
She's just such a hard worker, and I love just everything about her. Like, she's so unique and such a character and played such a good heel. And if you really watch and you know wrestling, like, you can tell that she knew how to make somebody else look good when they weren't as experienced as she was. So that's one of the things that I really admire about her. And then when you watch interviews, just like, I feel like she was a really classy broad, you know?
Mm.
The things that she said, she never had anything negative to say about anybody, so that was cool.
Who else? Is there any other people, both male or female, that you look up to or would love to have work with or learned from? Who else would be on the list for Ashley America?
Who else? All right, I love Mick Foley. Amazing promos, just an amazing person. I love Macho Man. Obviously, Ric Flair, because...
Ooh, of course.
Well, obviously, Sarah Del Rey. I don't know, I feel like Victoria was freaking awesome.
If I didn't know any better, and I don't see why that match couldn't happen. I don't see why that couldn't happen down the line.
That'd be awesome.
I think you could take her tomorrow, but, you know, out of respect, maybe down the line.
She's great. I love, like, Gail Kim and Mickie James. I would watch TNA just for the women's matches.
All right, so we talked about opponents. We talked about in-ring. We talked about Valkyrie. It means a lot for you to be about Valkyrie. So you've had a few years here in the business. You've had your bumps and bruises. We're going to go into a little something I like to call the lightning round now, Ashley. Kind of just snappy answers to snappy questions. I want to know your bumps and bruises. Do you have a worst injury in the ring, Ash?
I do. We were doing up and over drills at the Monster Factory, and so I was the one going under. And so the first time I was a little late going under, and he almost landed on me. And so the second time, everyone was yelling at me to hurry up, hurry up. And instead of watching where I was going, I just listened to what they were saying. And the person just donkey kicked straight out and kicked me right in the mouth.
Oh!
And my teeth actually went through the top of my bottom lip and out the front.
No.
And I was like, what, am I bleeding? And they're like, oh my God. And I was like, what, guys? And I was like, is it bad? And LSD got ice for me.
Your teeth are jutting out of your nose. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my little Mick Foley story.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh.
And not out of my nose, out of my bottom lip. I didn't want to look at it, but LSG, of course, was the first one to jump in and, like, grab ice for me and everything. And he was like, I think you might need a few stitches. And I was like, I don't want to go to the hospital. And they're like, no, seriously, you might need a few stitches. And I was like, oh, fine. And so two of the newer guys drove me over and sat in the waiting room with me forever. And it was just great having to explain to everybody what had happened and, like, explain that I'm a pro wrestler because, of course, everyone thought that I was, like, in an abusive relationship or something.
With these two guys that are in the waiting room with you.
Yeah. And then my doctor looked like he was, like, 12 years old, and I was like, oh, great. And I ended up having to get 14 stitches in my lip.
By Doogie Howser.
By Doogie Howser.
Ugh.
And it was, like, we had a Gerald Briscoe seminar, and it was literally 2 weeks before then, so I'm like, crap. And I was supposed to get promo pictures the next day, and I had, like, a giant black eye, and my lips all swollen up with stitches and stuff. It was like ground hamburger. Sorry, that's gross.
But you're painting a picture because you're an artist.
So yeah, and my cheekbone actually, like, part of it was, like, floating down below where it was supposed to be. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Next lightning round question. You've been in the business a while, Ashley. If you can say it on air, I said the same thing to Casey. Best rib that either you were a part of, had done to you, or maybe that you saw. Best rib.
So Cheeseburger and Will Ferrara and I were in the locker room at the Monster Factory. we're sitting in the back watching the monitors. And I don't know if you know Brutal Joe Gibson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a student there, and he was sitting in the front row watching, and his butt crack was protruding, and we had done a potluck that day, and so there was a veggie tray back there, and I was like, we should put a baby carrot in Brutal Joe's butt crack, and Will was like, I'll do it, and so he gets this ice cold baby carrot and puts it in his butt crack. And Joe pulls it out, and then I don't know if you know Clutch Adams.
I've heard of Clutch Adams, yeah.
Yeah, Clutch walks in, and Joe offers him the baby carrot, and Clutch ate the butt carrot.
Oh! Butt carrot, no!
It got
double rib. He had a carrot in his butt, and then he ate,
and then Clutch ate the butt carrot.
That was a rib that turned into a rib on somebody else. That's the best.
It couldn't have been planned.
It wasn't.
No.
On the fly.
It was pure
He's
magic.
like, I'm going to throw a carrot in my butt, huh? Well, now someone's going to eat it. Gross. That is a great rib.
Yeah, good one.
It's a moderately harmless rib. Moderately harmless.
Good old butt.
Ashley, current hobbies outside of wrestling. You were talking about art earlier. What else is it? You did work. I do believe you have worked on the set for a little show called House of Cards.
Yes, a little show called House of Cards and another little show called Veep. I do set lighting.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus. No.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Is an amazing person to work for.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves Julia. I love working on Veep. The whole cast and crew are amazing. Like, it really easily could have been a terrible job with the long hours, but we just made it so much fun. I make my own wrestling gear, so I'm into sewing, and I'm like, I never really formally learned how to snow, so I'm kind of like figuring out. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm really tired. This is another interest of mine, but I'm very into spirituality. I do Reiki and chakras.
And stuff.
So my power chakra is the solar plexus, which is personal power. And so I use yellow because that was also my big struggle, was believing in myself. And now it's my strength because I worked so hard on it. But I make my gear yellow because it represents personal power, and I believe that I am working to change the way that people view women, and that we can do anything that men can do. We just sometimes have to find different ways to do it.
Goals in and outside of wrestling, Ash.
It's my main goal is to be good. Really
I would rather be lucky than good any day of the week. That's just me. I don't think
so many people told me that I couldn't do it, so that makes me want. I mean, like, I'm pretty obsessed with being good at whatever I'm doing anyway, but I just feel like I owe it to myself and to my gender to be really good at what I do, just to defy all of the negative stereotypes and prove that we can do whatever we want to do if we just put our minds to it. Oh, Sarah Palin popped out.
There she is. Ash, the pleasure has been all mine throughout this podcast. It was so nice to talk to you more. It's always nice. I need you to give me the business right now. I need you to plug your social media.
On social media, I am Ashley America on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like purely my wrestling page. I accept anyone who requests me.
Mm-hmm.
And on the old Twitter machine, at Ashley America.
America. That's Ashley America with an M.
I'll spell it out for the kids at home. ASHLEYMURIKA.
Ashley, thank you so much for joining us tonight, hon. We will see you at VALKYRIE VI this July.
I can't wait. and it's going to be awesome.
What an interview, Top Shelf. Thank you for stepping in this week and conducting an interview with Ashley America.
Pleasure was all mine. We could have sat and talked for hours on end. Just an interesting girl with a story to tell, and her story is still being written.
And if you're interested in seeing Ashley America wrestle, of course, she will be at the VALKYRIE 6th Anniversary Spectacular Thursday night, a special Thursday night presentation of VALKYRIE Women's Professional Wrestling, July 9th, Woodbury Heights Community Center, where, of course, beautiful Woodbury Heights, New Jersey. Currently, we've already announced the Psychopath versus the Superhero, Mistress Belmont versus previous guest on The Confidential, Aja Super Pereira.
I believe we have some other groundbreaking news to break there, Rob.
Absolutely.
We have Kimber Lee's opponent is to be announced tonight.
Absolutely.
What should we say, Rob? I'm going to interrupt you. I'm gonna
Go right ahead, please. You know what, Top Shelf? You take this one. I'll sit back.
Yeah, we said we were going to announce Kimber Lee's opponent. You have to understand, it is in fact an opponent because she is the challenger in this case. And she is the challenger for the Queen of VALKYRIE. Yes, folks, Thursday night, July 9th, Casey Carlisle will defend her Queen of VALKYRIE against Kimber Lee. In
one heck of a match.
Contest. And yes, guess what? This is a rematch, Rob. But do you want to know of what match?
I do.
Kimber Lee's very first match was against Casey Carlisle. I had a chance to speak to Kim briefly this past weekend at a show up here in Massachusetts. Said we're all looking forward to the contest. And she said that this is not the first time that she's tangoed with Casey Carlisle. Tell me what you think about that match, Rob. Your thoughts on her being the unrightful #1 contender.
Well, first off, I would contend your statement of her being unrightful. Of course, at VALKYRIE 3, winning that three-way Queen's Road, she defeated La Rosa Negra and Hanaya, the Howling Huntress, and then also holds a win at VALKYRIE 2 over superstar Nikki Adams. So, I don't think that you're talking about someone that's not unrightful. You got a 2-0 record, and you have someone who's proven that they can defeat some of the top talent at VALKYRIE, and I think that right now we're looking at potentially, as the crowd likes to chant, the next champion right here.
You have to say, I mean, she was so eager to do it. If she really thought that she could beat my queen and yours, maybe she would have been there, I don't know, January. Or maybe she would have been there in, maybe at about March.
Kimber Lee.
I'm not saying that she's afraid. I mean, after all, she is a lady. She's a wrestler. Well, something tells me that her wrestling may not be able to match up with the street fight of Casey Carlisle.
I don't doubt that this is going to be a great match, and I don't doubt that it's going to be a competitive match. But I will say that that this is a absolutely deserving shot. Kimber Lee, unable to make it to VALKYRIE 4 or 5. You're talking about someone who is in high demand. And this is someone who has said time and time again to me, to the office at VALKYRIE, that Kimber Lee is looking for that championship, looking for that Queen of VALKYRIE championship, and so finally getting her shot. And not to say that maybe Casey Carlisle hasn't granted her this championship match before either.
You're doubting our queen at 5. You think that Casey Carlisle's ducking somebody? I don't think so. I think that my queen would be very much up to the challenge of Miss Kimber Lee.
Well, I'll say this: she absolutely better be, because if she sleeps on Kimber Lee, if she takes this match lightly, this could be her last as the Queen of VALKYRIE. So I believe that takes us to the end of this here podcast, episode 5 of VALKYRIE Women's Wrestling Confidential, the official podcast of VALKYRIE Women's Professional Wrestling. You, of course, can find Valkyrie on the web. ValkyrieWomens.com is the site. You can buy tickets to the Anniversary Spectacular, July 9th, a Thursday night in beautiful Woodbury Heights, New Jersey. Tickets are on sale now. You can find us on Twitter, Valkyrie Women's on Twitter. We've got Valkyrie on Facebook. You search Valkyrie Women's Professional Wrestling, or you go to facebook.com/Valkyrie Women's. Of course, the YouTube channel as well, Valkyrie Women's Pro, where you're most likely listening to this. You're listening to this either through the YouTube channel or the eventual, it takes some time, but the eventual iTunes podcast feed.
Slacking, Rob. How come it's not there yet?
It will be soon. It will be very soon. And that takes us to the end of the show. Top Shelf Troy Nelson, if someone wants to find you online, where do they go to find you?
Oh, my God, I need more Twitter followers. Follow me at Top Shelf Troy, or go to my Facebook page and give me a like. It's Top Shelf Troy Nelson. I'm listed under athlete, I think, or maybe entertainer. Hell knows I'm not an athlete. I hope I didn't choose that.
And you can...
I've only lost one match this year, Rob.
How many matches have you had this year?
I have had one match. One large.
Well, at least you're consistent.
Yes.
You can find me on Twitter, ROBBLATT, Rob Blatt. I do not have one of these fancy Facebook pages. It's just my personal profile. Just don't be creepy is all I can say about that. But we will see you next time on Valkyrie Women's Wrestling Confidential. And until next time, for Top Shelf Troy Nelson, I'm Rob Blatt.